What's up, everyone? Welcome into the stream. We are getting started. It is a beautiful Sunday all around the country, from San Francisco to New York. We are ready for a beautiful day of football from 12 o'clock all the way into the 10 o'clock hour. 7 hours of football is here. We do not see the commercial free football anymore, unfortunately, but I have quite a few betting lines that I really like today. I want to talk about almost every single game on the slate. We're going to get started with the noon games here as people start to pour in. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the stream. We're going to start with the noon games, get into the 3 o'clock games, and then hopefully, if we have time, we're going to touch on Sunday night football, which I believe is Packers Cowboys off the top of my head here. So that being said, let's hop right into this and get into the noon games. We're going to start with Lions versus Browns. Might not be the best game of the day, but it's definitely one that I am fired up to talk about. So let me pull out the trusty little notebook. I've done plenty of scouting today. And for starters, I think this Cleveland Browns offense is actually going to do well against the Lions. So let's talk about that real quick. So obviously, we've watched this Browns offense struggle a little bit to start this season. 16 points, 17 points, and then that last second field goal to beat the Packers last week puts them right here at that 13 line. Looking at the team props, their over under is at 16 and a half. But as we can see here, the Detroit Lions defense has not been great. Even with Aaron Glenn last year, they were allowing a ton of points. Now, some of that's due to injury, obviously. Definitely not something I'm going to completely knock them for, but we see some other games here in the new year without Aaron Glenn as the DC, 27, 21, and 30. I'm considering the fact that the Lions play in a dome. There's no outside weather aspects. It's on turf. A lot of these games continuously go well over this 44 and a half line here. My projected score for this game is Detroit 31, Cleveland 20. Now, that's right there around that 10 and a half spread. I stay away from that. I don't know if the Browns will cover. I don't know if the Lions are going to come out and be hot to start this game. What I do know, though, is that I think the Lions defense is going to allow the Browns to put up a few points, especially in the second half. As we can see here, the Browns are a strong second half team. Now, versus the Ravens, these were kind of garbage time points, but versus the Packers, they showed a ton of resilience here and won that game outright very late in the game. So I think that the Browns can absolutely score over 17 points. Now, their line right here is at 7.5 for the second half. That is going to be the line that I take officially, over 7.5 for the Browns in the second half. I think that's a great play. 1 second, let me take a look here. I'm checking Discord as well. Let's see. Does anyone? Oh, I see that somebody's asking for a promo code. Thank you so much for that plug there, Tony. You can use code Plaisant, guys. Go check out Doink Sports. Let me just explain what we're doing here. You can see everything possible, everything imaginable for betting on these games, player props, and we're talking pass yards, rush attempts, rush yards, anytime touchdowns. We're talking over, under. We're talking the team props, which is what I'm talking about right now. Sides, which is the spread, of course, and then you can even view live injury updates. So check it out for yourselves, doinksports.com. If you're interested in using the product, if you're a consistent bettor, be sure to use code Plaisant. That's PLIZONT for 25% off of any purchase on this site. So that being said, let's continue with what I've got here. I've got the Browns over 7.5 points in the second half of this game. I definitely think they're going to cover those points just because they're a second half team, or at least that's what they've showed me so far this season. And the Lions as well are allowing 13.5 points per game. Now, the Bears only scored 7, but as you can see here, that game was well out of reach by the time that second half came around. The Bears, I don't believe, kept playing. So I see Hefty Lefties in here. What's going on, my friend? I hope you guys are having a great day. Good luck. Good luck. It is going to be a phenomenal day of football, regardless of whether or not the bets are hitting. I mean, of course, I know everybody that's watching right now is playing fantasy football. I hope you guys win. I'm 1-3, I believe, or maybe 1-2. I can't even remember what this is week 4. So I'm 1-2, and I'm playing against a guy that's 0-3. And our fantasy punishment is next draft. We have to, the last place loser has to be in a dog cage for the entire draft. So I really prefer not to be in the dog cage. So this is a must-win game for me. I'm in a toilet bowl game, but we'll see what happens with it. I've my number one player, CeeDee Lamb, and obviously he's not playing today. So let's continue talking about this game. I got a few other props here I want to talk about. Jared Goff, player props. His completion number is down here at 20.5. Now, some of this is due to the fact that this game is expected to be a blowout, and Goff probably won't be passing that much in the second half. And while I do partially agree with that, even in some of these blowout games like the Bears, he's going over. He is hitting this at a 90% completion percentage. Now, the Browns are only allowing over 20 completions in 3 of their last 10 games. But if we go back and look at the sides for these games, they're not close. I think the Browns in this game, their offense is going to put up a few points. It's going to keep this game relatively close, and Jared Goff is going to complete over 20 passes. Like I said, he's done it in 9 of his last 10. If we want to extrapolate that out to his last 15, he's done it in 11 of his last 15. Even if we want to expand it to his last 30 with the Lions, he's done it in 19 of 30 games with the Lions. So we're talking about an over 60% completion percentage, or not completion percentage, but hit percentage here. That's the correct term. Over 60% hit percentage in the last 30 games. And in the last 10, he's hitting it in 9 of his last 10. So really impressed with what Goff has done so far this season. That game versus the Packers, I would not chalk that up as his fault. The defense definitely let them down there. And then they just couldn't convert on third down, but looked really strong versus the Bears. And I was unbelievably impressed with his game management with the Baltimore Ravens in that game last week on Monday Night Football. So over 20.5 completions at -113. That's one of my official plays. That's going to do it for the Bears versus the Lions. Let's talk about Titans Texans. By the way, if anybody has any questions on any player props, sides, team totals, anytime touchdowns about any of these games, throw it in the comments. I'll be sure to try to get it answered before the end of the stream. Let's go ahead and continue here with our Titans Texans game. I'm predicting that this is going to be a tight one. Tennessee is a 7.5 point dog, and I'll be taking them plus 7.5. But we can talk first about the player props. The guy I think for Tennessee that's going to have a good day is Alec Ayomanor, excuse me. I scouted this guy coming out of Stanford before he got drafted. I thought he was a solid red zone target, and so far he has been a major target of Cam Ward, getting around 20% of the target share here to start this season. He's averaging 3 catches a game for about 35, 36 yards. His over-under line is all the way down at 28.5. And that's because the Texans defense, I think, according to Vegas and a lot of other places, have been known for shutting down quarterbacks. But let's go back and take a look here to start this season. I think that quarterbacks against the Texans have done a pretty good job. Matthew Stafford, 245. Baker Mayfield at 215. Trevor Lawrence at 222. Now, Cam Ward's line is all the way down at 187. He's a rookie. He's on the road. I get it. But this line for Ayomanor right here at 28.5, I definitely think that's really low. -112 here from FanDuel, over 28.5. That's the best odds that you can get there. That's definitely a play that I'll be tracking. Official pick here, over 28.5 receiving yards. Next play that I like is the bread and butter for this Houston Texans offense, especially at home. Let's talk about my guy, my former high school rival, Nico Collins. This guy gave my high school fits when I was there, and he went to Michigan, didn't really perform that great at Michigan, but ended up going to the Texans, and he has been a top 10 wide receiver for the majority of his NFL career. Taking a look at his line here at 70.5. He hasn't hit it that often, 4 of his last 10 games. But as you can see here, the Texans started leaning on him as the game got close down the stretch. He had that massive 50-yard catch to keep the game within arm's reach. And then looking at Nico Collins at home, man, he is a different animal, hitting this in 70% of his last 10 games at home. And that's dating all the way back to 2023. Just looking from 2024 and beyond, he's at over 60%. And versus Tampa Bay, got 9 targets, only 3 catches. I don't think this Titans secondary is that good. Let's take a look at some injury updates before we start looking at this game here. J.C. Latham is out for the Titans. Bryce Oliver's out for the Titans. Derek Stingley is questionable. I definitely don't think this Titans defense is that great. Now, they've held a lot of these games for the Titans so far have been slop fest. They held Bo Nix, this is Bo Nix. They held Bo Nix to 176 yards passing, but Matthew Stafford, an experienced quarterback, took advantage of the Titans defense, threw for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Daniel Jones, even at 228. CJ Stroud has struggled, to say the least, and it's honestly not his fault, in my opinion. I actually made a TikTok about this and talked about how CJ Stroud, his offensive line is just god-awful. I think he's going to try to get the ball out quickly, and he's going to be looking for his number one guy this game. That's Nico Collins, who tears it up at home. My play is over 70.5 yards at minus 112 on FanDuel. That's my play here. I also am taking the Titans plus 7.5. The Texans just have not shown me yet that they're not only capable of winning games, but capable of winning games by more than a touchdown. Now, the Titans have gotten the doors blown off them last couple of games, but that game versus the Broncos on the road, to me, was really impressive. And I think if you look at the Broncos versus the Texans are in a much worse spot. I know this game is at home for Houston. I think Tennessee can actually get one over the Texans. I would consider taking money line here if you're watching this stream and thinking about a game where you need an underdog to pull it out. I think the Titans can do it here. This Texans team is reeling. They've gotten some really heartbreaking losses to start the year, and the offense has been the major problem, which is really disappointing considering CJ Stroud at the time, probably last year at this time, was considered a top 10 quarterback. We're definitely not having that conversation right now. So my 3 plays for this game, Nico Collins over 70.5, Alec Aomanor for the wide receiver 2 for the Titans over 28.5 receiving yards, and the Titans plus 7.5, minus 120 on Fanatics. We see here FanDuel's got it at minus 122. If you're ever curious, by the way, using the Doink Sports tool here, what other sports books are offering, you can hit this little graph line here and you can check it out on a graph line. And as a matter of fact, you can see the line movements here as the hours go backwards. You can see what sports books are moving where. And as of right now, the best, most popular sports book, Fanatics, has got them at minus 120. That's where I have them. So that's going to be Texans versus Titans. That's my preview there. Let's continue to roll on. We have a game that just feels like a trap. The Commanders without Jaden Daniels, without Terry McLaurin, I believe. Let's go take a look at the injuries. Without Noah Brown and Josh Bates, Percy Butler's actually, I don't think he's that relevant, but I'm not going to disrespect him like that. He's still injured. This is a Commanders team that's unbelievably banged up on the road, and they're a 2.5-point dog. That seems very strange. The Falcons are minus 2.5. They come off that 30-0 game last week versus the Panthers. God-awful game for the Falcons. And as you can see here, they are not doing well over their last 10 games. 3-7 in the win column. Now, when they do win, they cover the spread, but obviously they're not covering the 2.5 spread when they lose. That's obvious, right? But I have a few props in this game. I just have one prop in this game. I'm pretty much staying away from any and all spreads over and under in this game. I'll take a look real quick at a long shot anytime touchdown play. But let's see here. First off, player props. Bijan Robinson could not get it going last week. And the Falcons were in a hole, yet he was still able to get 72 yards on the ground on 13 carries. That's important. Bijan, when he has to carry the ball more than 15, 16 times, gets well over this 94 or this 79.5 line. As a matter of fact, using the Doink Sports tool, we can filter out rush attempts and talk about Bijan when he has more than 15 rush attempts. And as you can see, that line when he rushes the ball more than 15 times is going over 100% of the time. And then we can filter it out over here and look at the Commanders. When you have a player that rushes the ball more than 15 times, they're 50-50 with it now. But Bijan Robinson is that guy, and he is indeed the Falcons' offense. The Commanders are letting this up 50% of the time in their last 10 games, so it looks like a 50-50 play, right? But when you look at Bijan Robinson and when he goes over and under, he goes under when the Falcons don't give him the ball, obviously. I think considering the fact that they didn't give him the ball last week, they're definitely going to return to that, and I have evidence to prove it. Here we go. We have 12 attempts here. The next game, 26. 12 attempts here. The next game, 22. So he has 13 attempts here. I fully expect that number to be in the upper teens, maybe even the 20s. At his line here at 16.5, I would consider taking the over here if that line wasn't minus 162. There's just not a lot of value there, in my opinion. We could even extrapolate this out and talk about not last 30 games because that moves him into being a rookie, but last 15 games. Here we go. 15 attempts, 21. 13 attempts, 19. And we're back to the other 12 and 26, 12 and 22. This over 79 line is 100% going to hit, and we can pair that again with that exact prop here. 13, 63, 19, 86. 12 and 35, 26, and 102. So Bijan with kind of a off game here in his last game. I mean, he did end up having 18 total touches, but I think he's averaging damn near 23 or 24 touches a game. So I think that was low last week. I expect him to have more this week, barring a blowout from the Commanders, which I just can't see. So that being said, I like Bijan Robinson over 79.5, and you can get that minus 112 at FanDuel. Let's continue and talk about the anytime touchdown plays here. Marcus Mariota's line last week, I believe, was really close to 1,000. I believe plus 1,000. I think he was like plus 800, plus 900. I wish I could go back and take a look at that, but I digress. What I will talk about here is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is plus 270. This is definitely a prop that I'm 100% looking at with Austin Eckler being out. I think as the season goes on, we are going to see JCM, Bill Krosky-Merritt. We're going to see him tote the rock just a little bit more. Now, the Falcons have been stout against the run so far this season. They're second in receiving yards allowed to backs. They're 8th in the league in rush yards allowed to running backs. I think we could see this number increase here just because Washington is going to have to lean on the run game a little bit more due to the fact that Terry McLaurin is out and they're playing with the backup quarterback. So out of everything that I see here, Chris Rodriguez is at plus 280. Let's go take a look at the over-under rush attempts prop-wise. Let's scroll back up and look at running back number 2, which is Chris Rodriguez. His over-under yards is 32. He had 13 rush attempts last week. Meanwhile, Krosky-Merritt only had 8. Will we see Krosky-Merritt continue to increase his workload? That is, in my opinion, questionable. But what I do want to point out here is the fact that Chris Rodriguez, let's scroll back down, excuse me. Chris Rodriguez actually had 11 attempts, not 13 versus the Raiders last week, but only 1 touchdown on the season. Meanwhile, Krosky-Merritt has got 2. So looking here at the anytime touchdowns with Bill Krosky-Merritt being at plus 270, I like that. Let's see if we can find better odds here. Here's another way you can track this. You can hit JCM punches anytime touchdown. Here's the track screen here. FanDuel, go to underdog at plus 356. So that's definitely one that I'm going to be taking. I'm going to write that down as a matter of fact, plus 356, so that I can cover it there at the end. And we will continue talking about these games. We've actually spent a lot of time on the first couple of games. Let's speed it up a little bit here. One more prop that I want to take here is Deebo Samuel over 5.5 receptions. We're going to scroll back up real quick, and we're going to talk about Deebo Samuel. So the reason I'm taking Deebo here is because Terry McLaurin is out for this game. Looking at Deebo, let's filter it out to his last 10 so we can specifically see what his target radius is looking like here. And so what I want to point out, he got 10 targets, 7 receptions versus the Giants. The reason he got so many targets is because Terry McLaurin signed a contract after a hold-in very short, or in a very short amount of time before this game versus the Giants. So Deebo was the main focal point of the offense. I definitely think we'll see that again. I mean, even in week 2, 8 targets, 7 receptions. I believe we're going to see this line go over, and it's at plus 134. We can actually track that out and see what other sports books have that. DraftKings has got it at plus 143. So definitely go take a look at DraftKings at plus 143. By the way, couple plugs here. We did a college football stream yesterday. I talked about all my official plays. I believe, let me go back and look here at my college football plays. We went 11-8 yesterday, but plus 5.38 units. We hit a 1.84, a 2.25, a 1.53 unit play. Very impressive day, to say the least. The strategy that I use here is long-term. I'm not looking for giant long shots. I'm not looking to cook up some parlays. I am simply looking to make measured, calculated wagers throughout all these games where I find the value and punch those in long term. Last year, I did this for the first time officially tracking this stuff last year. From last year in November to February, that's the only time that I was tracking. I was over 33 units positive. That's the measurement that we're looking at right now. Through 3 weeks, we are around a 10 units positive, which I'm really excited about. I think that we continue to move on throughout that. The thing about what I do here on these streams and personally, I'm not going to have a 15 unit day, but I'm also not going to lose 15 units in a day. We incrementally increase based off of value. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I use doinksports.com. I'm creeping and crawling everywhere for value plays, and that's where I find them. We can see here that Deebo, of course, we have to have some ball knowledge, right? We know that Terry McLaurin was not a focal point of the offense in the first couple weeks. We see that Deebo got those targets versus the Giants and Packers. We know that Terry McLaurin is out today or out this week. Yeah, today. And so Deebo will be the focal point of the offense once again. On the road, you lean on your go-to guys. And so Deebo and Zach Ertz are going to be those guys. The problem with Zach Ertz is the fact that his receptions is at 4.5. That could definitely go over. But the fact that Deebo here at 5.5 for just one more catch is an extra 20+ points in value. I like that a lot. I'm kind of talking myself out of it right now, but I did a lot of research on this. I saw a lot of quotes from the Commanders. Deebo is going to be a focal point of this offense in this game. I will be taking this over 5.5 receptions at plus 134. And those are going to be my plays for the Falcons Commanders game, I believe. Yes. So double checking that real quick. Let's go ahead and talk about Chargers versus Giants. This is the rich getting richer versus the poorest of the poor. The Giants are going desperation mode. The coaching staff is begging to keep their jobs. They've benched Russell Wilson. They're starting Jackson Dart. And the Chargers are rolling unlike hardly any other team in the league. The spread is only 6.5. The Giants have put up some very respectable games against the spread. They're 1-1. The Chargers against the spread are 2-0 this year. Looking at the sides overall, the Chargers have really not shown that they can consistently cover a 6.5 point spread. Meanwhile, the Giants also have shown that they cannot consistently cover a 6.5 point spread. Who do I like in this game? Obviously, I think the Chargers are going to win it. but covering a 6.5 point spread on the road against one of the best front sevens in football in the New York Giants, I just don't know if I see that coming to fruition. The over under 43, I think my score for this game is, let me take a look here. My projected score, let's see, LIC 29-15. So that's 44 points. I do not think that this over under is off by any means. It's spot on from Vegas. I think that the Chargers can cover the spread. I just don't know it. I see it. There's a lot of unknowns. I might talk myself into it by the end of this discussion here with the Chargers. Let's first talk about my player props, starting off with Cam Scatterbo. Cam Scatterbo last week started becoming running back one. Now, Tyron Tracy Jr. is out again this week. Cam Scatterbo last week had, let's see, he split. Oh, is Tyron Tracy? No, Tyron Tracy is out. Yeah, that's right. So Cam Scatterbo last week started off 10 carries, 60 yards. I mean, he looks like Mr. CTE, man. He's trying to run over anyone and everyone in the run game. His line, obviously, as you can see, has increased to 13.5 carries. It's because, like I said, Tyron Tracy Jr. is out. I definitely think the play here is over 54.5 yards. As you can see here, he's averaged 6 yards a carry last week, averaging around 4-ish yards per carry the week before when he started to get more touches in the game. Overall, 16 touches, 120 yards. His line at 79.5 to me is a little high because I don't know if he's going to catch 3 balls for 20 yards again. What I do see as a value play here is 54.5. And as you can see, if you want to filter out rush attempts against the Chargers defense, more than, we'll say, 12 to be conservative here. 12 is hitting at 90% of the time for 54.5 over the last season. That's dating all the way back to 9/22/2024. I definitely think this is the play here. The Giants' offensive line is not the worst in the league. Cam Scatterbo is a unit. He is somebody that you can put on the field, and he can carry the team for an extended period of time. Here's another reason why I'm taking Cam Scatterbo here over 54.5 rush yards. Jackson Dart is getting the start today, and you're not going to try to put the game in his hands. You're going to start giving it to your playmakers, Scatterbo being one of them, Malik Neighbors being the other. I definitely think this is one worth taking here. And at minus 112, that's the best that you can get on any major sports book. DraftKings Pick 6. I haven't done a ton of research into this. I'm not sure how this works, but you can get it at minus 112 there as well. So with FanDuel, though, that's where I'll be taking it over 54.5. The next prop I'm going to be talking about is another pro Giants one. It's Theo Johnson over 18.5 receiving yards. In the last 3 games, he's averaging 4 targets a game, 2.5 catches for 29.5 yards. I'm very surprised to see this number here at 18.5. If you go and look and filter out, filter out more filters. Let's see if we can filter here. Red zone target share. We'll filter out target wise, and we'll say 4 targets or more because that's what he's averaging. So player prop wise, or this is more than 4 targets. So we'll filter targets more than 3. There we go. So 4 targets, it's hitting 90% of the time here at 18.5 yards. I like that a lot. I think when you have a tight end like Theo Johnson, a young quarterback like Jackson Dart, he's going to try to get some gimme plays here. And your tight end is always one of the best targets for that. Russell Wilson was not that type of quarterback. We all know he loves to throw his signature moon deep ball. I think with Johnson, it's definitely the play here to go over 18.5 yards, minus 112 here at FanDuel. Tracking that up, we can take a look and see that that's the best odds out there. Caesars has got it minus 115. That I shot this around a little bit, and those were the 2 that I got. So that's Chargers versus Giants. So let's see. I'm only about 30-ish% of the way through. We're going to continue. We're going to try to move at a little bit of a faster pace because, damn, I've got a lot of plays to talk about. Next game up, I've got 4. This is probably the game that I have the most or tied with the most action. Real quick, let me take a drink of water for 1 second. Sorry, guys. When you yap like this for 30 straight minutes, it's hard to catch a breath and stay hydrated. So, with that being said, let's talk about Panthers versus Patriots. The spread is Panthers plus 5.5. Seen a lot of people like New England today. Both teams 1-2. They've had some big wins, like the Patriots against the Dolphins on the road. That was a massive win. Panthers at home, damn, they looked good there, 30-0. To me, it was more of a fluky game because I think the Falcons actually outgained the Panthers in that game. But quite a few turnovers on downs. The special teams for both teams was really lopsided towards the Panthers. This was more of a fluke game to me. Now, on the road, looking at the Panthers over the last year, they have not been good at all. They are failing to cover a 5.5-point spread 70% of the time. Meanwhile, the Patriots have also been equally as bad. They have failed to cover the spread at home, minus 5.5. I mean, now they have been a dog in a lot of these games, but they've only covered that 10% of the time. That one becoming against the Buffalo Bills, where I believe the Bills in this game benched all their starters and the Patriots were barely able to win it. I don't really like the sides here. My projected score for this game is somewhere in the range of 23-20 or 23-21. I think the Panthers can cover this 5.5-point spread, but once again, not confident. And that 23-21 score is right there at that 43.5. Don't love the over-under on that. Panthers money line, if you're looking for some kind of value play, that's definitely somewhere that you can find it. I like it a lot. What I don't like, though, is the fact that the Panthers are 5.5-point favorites. If that line was somewhere closer to 3.5, I would consider taking the Panthers, just because that means to me that the public, Vegas, and this, that, and the other are putting a little bit more respect on Carolina. Looking at the weather, it's going to be a good weather game. But let's talk about the actual props that I like. To start, we are going to go down here and we're going to talk about my guy Chuba Hubbard. His line today for rush yards is extremely low, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pulling it up as we speak. Let's get to it. It's at 49.5. And Chuba Hubbard, when he touches the ball more than 15 times, is not going anywhere remotely close to 49.5. I think this is absolutely a value play. The reason that this line is so low is because you see here, the Patriots have been locking up the running back one for opposing teams so far this season. 38 yards for Genty, 30 yards for Devon Achane, and Jalen Warren, 47 yards, 18 carries. The difference between the Panthers and these three teams here is I think the Panthers' offensive line is better than the Patriots have faced. And that's why I think 49.5 is the way to go. The other thing, as I scroll down, my apologies, I will scroll right back up. The other thing that I want everybody to consider here is the fact that the Panthers' winning formula, looking at these games that they win, is giving Chuba Hubbard the ball. 28 carries in a victory, 26 carries in a damn near close win versus the Philadelphia Eagles last year. 25 carries against the Cardinals last season in a win. 17 carries for 73 yards here against the Falcons last season. When Chuba Hubbard touches the ball over 17 times, the Panthers are either winning the game or they're coming damn near close to winning the game. So I think this is the play to take here, over 49.5. I also love his anytime touchdown at plus 146. Now, Rico Dowdle has been getting a good amount of the red zone rush share. I do think that Chuba Hubbard will start to pick that up as the season goes on, and you can grab that at Underdog plus 153. That's the official play that I have written down here. I think that's really valuable. The next thing that I'm going to talk about, let's get into the Patriots now. We're going to talk about my guy Drake May, who has had a disappointing season to start the year, and everybody's been calling him Drake May Not or Drake May Be. We'll see about that. But what I have been impressed with is his ability to get yards. And his line right now is at 212. The Panthers so far this year, their defense has been pretty stout against the pass. But on the road is what I'm a little concerned about. Drake May at home has been very consistent. 30 for 46, 287 yards, 28 for 37, 268. Now, this is because Number one, they were down in both of these games. But number two, it's because the run game has significantly struggled here. Ramondre Stevenson, 7 carries for 15 yards, 4 carries for 18 yards. And I believe he had 1 or 2 fumbles in that game. That was really concerning. And Travion Henderson just has not been able to get it off the ground. 11 carries for 28 yards last week, averaging around like 2.6 or 2.7 yards per carry. The back of this offense, or the person whose offense, the offense is on Drake May's back. That's the correct way to phrase that. And that's why I think over 212.5 is going to be the play here at minus 112 using FanDuel. The Panthers last year, especially in some of these games on the road, like Baker Mayfield and Michael Penix, 312 and 359 is my logic here. They've allowed it 60% of the time. Drake May is doing it in 7 out of his last 10 games. If we extrapolate this out to the last 15, he's doing it in 9 of his last 15. And the games that he's actually not are either games that he got injured in or games that he wasn't starting in. Like here versus the Jets, he was injured versus or maybe he didn't play versus the Bills, I believe. So this game doesn't even count. So he's 9 of his last 13 realistically, which is a very high percentage. Over 212.5 is my line here. And then to pair with that, I'm talking about the wide receiver 1 for this Patriots team. It's Stephon Diggs. Looking at his last 10 games, specifically his last 3 with New England, averaging around 5 targets a game, and he's catching the ball at a rate of around 4 or 5 times. He's gone under this line the last couple of games. I'm going to be taking him over this 35.5 receiving yards. Both of these games a little fluky to me to be 23 and 32 despite 7 catches. As you can see throughout Stephon Diggs' career, that is not going to be the case for Diggs early and often in the season. I definitely think looking here at this Panthers team who's allowed 9 out of 10 wide receiver 1s to go over 35.5 yards. The one guy they shut down was Marvin Harrison Jr., who is in shambles so far this year. He caught that touchdown versus the Seahawks, but still a ton of drops with that guy. 5 targets, just 2 catches. Diggs does not have that problem. 7 targets, 6 catches, 5 targets, 4 catches, 3 targets, 3 catches. Very consistent. Only 1 missed target so far this year. So over 35.5. I'm going to make sure, yep, that's what I've got here at minus 112 via FanDuel. We can take a look here and track that up, make sure that's the best odds we can get. It is indeed. And so I've covered Chuba Hubbard, anytime touchdown. Chuba Hubbard over 49.5 rushing yards. Stephon Diggs over 35.5 receiving. And Drake May over 212. The 212 and the Stephon Diggs prop go hand in hand. If Drake May's going over 212, I believe Diggs is going over 35.5. That's why I have to take it. Now, moving back into this Chargers game, I'm still staying away from this 6.5. We're going to see if I come back to it. But let's talk about the Bills-Saints game. The spread is a gargantuan 15.5. The Saints got the doors blown off them last week, but they showed a good amount of fight there in the second half. Spencer Rattler has been slinging the rock so far this season. Looking at his pass attempts versus completions, he's averaging, let's look at his last 5. In his last 5 games, he's averaging damn near 40 passes a game, 25 completions, and 219 yards through the air. A lot of these are dink and dunks. The prop here of over 21.5 completions has actually moved since the last time I saw it. It was earlier today at 20.5, and I took it over, but at 21.5 and minus 128, I don't like that prop anymore. Once again, this is why you should use doinksports.com. By the way, if you love this content, you love talking ball here, be sure to check me out at Plaisant on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I talk football, all kinds, NFL and college, and then I talk NBA, of course, as well. Be sure to check me out on any platform possible. I am all over the place. So with that being said, let's talk about my props for this game. I initially had Spencer Rattler, but we're going to cross that one out, and we're going to continue to look at this. Alvin Kamara has still, regardless of whether or not these games are blowout, been toting the rock. 21 and 18, just 42 yards versus the Seahawks. But what I want to talk about the fact that this Buffalo Bills defense is not great against the run. And Alvin Kamara's rushing prop is at 51.5. I'm taking that, and I'm also taking his over 12.5 longest rush attempt. Looking at Alvin Kamara in his last 30 games, he's hitting this 20 out of 30 times. And I think once again, he'll be toting the rock. His line is at 13.5. Let's say we have filter more rush attempts more than 13. And let's look at what that line looks like. Now it's at 83%. His over-under for rush yards is at 86%. That's why I'll be taking that. So I'm making sure that I have that written down. I do indeed. Let's continue now. We have that at minus 112. We got about 20 minutes left, so let's keep going. Anytime touchdowns, once again, I like Kamara, plus 152. The Bills are 26th in the league in allowing touchdowns to running backs. The Saints, by the way, the Saints money line at plus 830 is nuts. Obviously, don't take that. I do not think the Saints are going to win this game. But I am taking the Saints plus 15.5 in this game. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4 props that I like. I'm very Alvin Kamara centric today. I think he's going to have a good game. I'm looking at him getting about 60 rush yards, busting out one for at least 13 yards and scoring a touchdown. That's a lot. That's very Kamara centric, but I think the Bills have been pretty soft against the run so far. They're 21st in the league in rush yards allowed. They're 26th in the league in allowing rushing touchdowns from running backs. And then looking here at the sides, plus 15.5. The Saints, even though they've been god awful the last season, 2 or maybe even 3 years, they are covering this spread. Looking at their last 30 games, they're covering it 80% of the time. Last 15 games, 60% of the time. Last 10 games, 70% of the time. They kept it close versus the 49ers and the Cardinals. The Bills over the last 30 games, looking at what they've been able to do versus really bad teams, they're not covering it that often, honestly. I mean, they beat the Titans and the Seahawks last year handily. The 49ers, that's not a bad 49ers team, by the way. Then the Jets, of course, 26. A lot of these games are coming against AFC teams. This is an NFC team that the Bills don't get to see often. I know it's on the road for New Orleans, but I definitely think they can cover this 15.5 point spread, minus 115 via FanDuel. That's going to be my plays for that game. Let's continue. We're getting into the 3 o'clock games here. Eagles versus Buccaneers. The play here is Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown. I've got a couple of anytime touchdown plays here. A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown, plus 185. If we look that out, we can get it plus 195. The Tampa Bay defense is 14th in the league in allowing receiving touchdowns. They're 21st in the league in allowing reception touchdowns. Saquon at minus 135 to me is unbelievable, considering the fact that he not only is getting 50% of the red zone rush share, he's also getting 25% of the red zone target share in the receiving game. So he's getting a ton of touches. I like that play, considering that I could get it at minus 125, I believe. Let's take a look here. Minus 125. You can get it minus 118. That's where I'll be taking it at underdog. Let me write that down real quick so I remember before the stream ends. Minus 118 via underdog. Yep. Okay. I'll be taking this, and then I'll be taking A.J. Brown plus 195 anytime touchdown. He, over the last 2 games, has saw a massive increase in targets from 1 to 8 to 10. We saw that reception touchdown come late against the Rams last week. I think they'll have to do that again against a Tampa Bay defense that's been pretty damn stout so far in Todd Bowles' career there as the head coach. So I like that a lot. Devontae Smith at plus 240. I don't hate it. He gets 37% of the red zone targets, but looking back to last year, A.J. Brown and him are going neck and neck. If I had to choose anybody, I'm going with the guy that's 6'2", 100 or 220 pounds and is extremely muscular here. So A.J. Brown, 25% of the red zone target share. That's pretty accurate. I think he'll absolutely catch a touchdown here. He's a massive red zone threat. And then the other prop that I'm taking in this game, I actually have 2. Number 1 is Dallas Goedert, over 34.5 yards receiving. Let's scroll up and take a look at that. So Goddard in these games on the road is Jalen Hurts' bailout guy. Looking at him away and in the last 10 games, he is getting 70% of this. So he is at 34.5. He hasn't covered this line that much, but the Tampa Bay defense is allowing tight ends to kind of go off recently. So looking here, I mean, we can go back and look at that game versus the Eagles, as a matter of fact, from a playoff or two ago. Here's Dallas Goedert right there, 7 receptions, 62 yards. That's what I'm looking at. This Tampa Bay defense is not great against tight ends. As a matter of fact, they are only allowing around 35-ish yards per game versus tight ends this season, but that's where it's at. And the tight ends that they went up last couple of weeks are not good at all compared to Goddard or a guy like Kyle Pitts. Over 34.5 on the road. Hurts tends to lean on him receiving in the receiving game, averaging around 4 catches a game. I fully expect that. He's averaging 43 yards per game, by the way, in these. When he gets this 4 catches, I mean, he's consistently approaching that 34.5 yards. I definitely think this is he's gotten in 7 of his last 10. 34.5 is really low for me. Next up, I've got Emeka Ibuka over 57.5 receiving yards. But I'm taking, well, actually, I've just gotten some insider information about a couple of things. I'll be taking a look at those in just a moment. But we're looking at Chris Godwin. I believe he's making his return today. Let me Google that and make sure. Godwin, let's see. Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs are expected to play Sunday, according to NBC. I do expect Godwin to be back. I don't expect him to have that much of a portion of the offense, even though Mike Evans is out. Obviously, he's covering these 3.5 and 36.5 lines and 10 out of his last 10 games, because when he was covering those lines, he was fully healthy, a year younger, and a focal point of this Tampa Bay offense. Going into this week, though, I don't know what he's going to look like. Who I do know has been consistent has been Emeka Ibuka. He is getting 7 targets a game, catching around 5 of those balls, and he's averaging 60 yards a game. I think with Mike Evans out now, we're going to see that target share and the receiving follow through, and he's going to go well over this 57.5 line. I don't know about 6 catches. That's a little bold, but 57.5 yards is absolutely the play for me. We see here he's gotten 2 catches for 30 yards in 2 different games. I definitely think his big play ability is tremendous. Baker Mayfield, I think, has developed really good rapport with him so far this year. He's catching a good amount of the targets that are thrown to him. 60.5 averaging over the first 3 weeks. Looking at let's go ahead and pull this out and let's look at wide receiver ones, because this is actually reversed in my opinion. Chris Godwin should be wide receiver 2. But let's look at what it looks like for wide receiver ones against the Philadelphia defense over the last 10 games at 59.5, which is actually 2 yards over. The Eagles are allowing wide receiver ones to catch that in 6 of their last 10 games. And on the road, they're playing a little bit better. But I'm specifically looking here at these 3 games. 59 yards for Tyquan Thornton. Emeka Ibuka is way better. And I'm comparing him more to guys like CeeDee Lamb and Puka Nacua, who get 7 catches, 110 yards, and 11 catches, 112 yards. So I think Ibuka can easily go over this 57.5 line. So for this game, I've got Saquon anytime touchdown, A.J. Brown anytime touchdown, Dallas Goedert over 34.5 receiving yards. As a matter of fact, a special play here, by the way, extreme value. Let me scroll back up and show you guys what I'm talking about. This is the research that I did this morning. This is why you should shop your lines. Go take a look at Underdog here. Track this up over 34.5. You can get it Underdog here, plus 217. Value play for you guys there, over 34.5, plus 217. Let's continue here. I'm looking down here at my notebook, and we're going to talk about Rams versus Colts. This is a game that a lot of people are expecting to be a shootout. The over-under's at 49.5. Daniel Jones and this offense have been rolling. I got 10 minutes, so I gotta hurry up the pace here. The Colts defense, in my opinion, has been extremely stout. They've held players under 250 yards all 3 games to start the season. They clamped up Tua, Bo Nix, Cam Ward. They're only allowing around 170-ish passing yards. Matthew Stafford's passing yards, by the way, well above that at 251 and a half. And he is only hitting this, by the way, in 3 of his last 10 games. At home, it's a little bit better. It's 4 out of his last 10, but I'm actually going to be playing the under 251 and a half passing yards here. I think the Colts defense can hold up. Now, they are missing, I believe, Kenny Moore in this game. Let's go take a look. Yeah, they're missing Kenny Moore. He'll be out. And then but I still think that the Colts defense is stout enough to hold Matthew Stafford under 251 and a half passing yards. Next up in this, I've got Colts plus 3.5. I think this game could be a shootout. Let me take a look here at some of my insider info that I'm getting here. I'm seeing that they're expecting Colts over 49.5. I'll think about that one and I'll come back to you. So let's go ahead and talk about Jacksonville. So my 2 plays for that: Colts plus 3.5, Matthew Stafford under 251.5. Next game I want to talk about is Jacksonville versus San Francisco. This is a game that I fully expect to be a slop fest. The San Francisco 49ers are, I believe, without Brock Purdy. Let me take a look and see if he's returning. Brock Purdy will start after his 2-game absence due to his toe injury. Even with Brock Purdy coming back from injury, I think this will probably be a slop fest. The Jags defense has not looked bad so far this season. They allowed 31 points to the Bengals, but held the Panthers to 10, held the Texans to 10. Their pass rush has looked pretty damn good. Meanwhile, the 49ers so far this year have really not gotten it going offensively. They are 3-0, but they're averaging under 20 points a game. That's what's significant to me. So the first thing I'm taking here is the under 46.5. I think my score prediction here, as I take a look at it, is Jacksonville 20, San Francisco 23. That over-under, I think, is going under. And I do like Jags or Jacksonville plus 3.5, minus 120 on FanDuel. Those are the 2 plays that I have here. And then last but not least, I am very Travis Etienne centric to close this out. I'm not going to be able to get into the Raiders, the Chiefs, and the Ravens or the Packers, Cowboys, guys. Sorry about that. I'm going to recap real quick as we close out. So Travis Etienne, he is averaging around 75-ish yards per game to start the season, exploded onto the scene, 143 yards. And the recipe for victory here is giving him the football. He's averaging 15 carries in his last 3 games. Once again, averaging around 70, maybe even 80 yards per game. I like an anytime touchdown out of him, plus 142 via FanDuel. If we want to track that out and find some extra value. Underdog has got like some special going for plus 769. That's not correct. So we'll take it plus 142 anytime touchdown here. As we can see, we'll actually pull this out and see that Travis Etienne not only is getting 14% of the red zone reception targets, he's also getting 60% of the red zone target share in the run game. I think we'll see him score a touchdown this game. The 49ers have been pretty good against stopping running backs scoring the football, but I think that will change here. The Jags are very Travis Etienne centric right now after trading Tank Bigsby away to Philadelphia. So big fan of Travis Etienne getting over his 50.5 rushing yards and an anytime touchdown. So now we have hit 5 minutes until the 12 o'clock or 1 p.m. game start. Let's do a quick recap to talk about these all of the props that I've discussed here. I've hit the vast majority of the 12 and 3 o'clock games. Sorry, guys, we couldn't get into the latter half of this schedule. It just didn't work out, but I will be still taking some plays and I'll report on them tomorrow. Let's hop into it. Actually, one prop that I do want to talk about, Ravens Chiefs. The Ravens have been really strong in the first half over the last 10 games. Let's take a look at them. They have covered the spread of 0.5 point in 7 of their last 10 games. I absolutely think they're going to be able to do that yet again. The Chiefs in the first half over their last 10 games, covering a 0.5 point spread at 70% of the time, but the ones that they haven't are against the really good teams. Obviously, the Eagles in the Super Bowl. The Broncos beat the brakes off of them. That I think that the Chiefs were locked into the playoffs there. Matter of fact, I've talked myself out of this play altogether. Shouldn't have even gone into it. Let's go ahead and talk about first Lions versus Browns. I've got Cleveland over 16.5 points. Jared Goff over 20.5 completions here. Hang on one second. I'm just going to put my notebook right in front so that I can lock in. So Cleveland over 16.5 points. Jared Goff over 20.5 completions. I think Cleveland can keep this game relatively close for the majority of the game. It's going to force the Lions to continue to pass the football, and the Browns are really stout against the run. So if the Lions want to be successful, Jared Goff's going to have to pass. I think the Lions can force a couple punts, score over 16.5 points. They've only done it one time this season, but I've got some faith that Joe Flacco in a dome under Kevin Stefanski is going to be able to get this offense going. Now we're moving into Titans-Texans. Alec Aomanor over 28.5 receiving yards. Nico Collins over 70.5 receiving yards, and the Titans plus 7.5. I think that even though the Texans defense has been regarded as stout and good, I think the Titans can take advantage of kind of a weak spot here and maybe a sleeper game. The Texans' motivation here might not be that high. And then as far as the Titans plus 7.5, the over-under on this game is 39.5. So that's basically predicting that the Texans are going to basically shut out the Titans. I don't think that's going to happen. Those are my 3 plays for that game. Commanders at Falcons. We've got 3 plays. Oh, wow. Okay, so I've gotten some more insider info about the Packers game tonight. We'll get into that in just a little bit before we close out this stream. We are approaching, I believe, the 3-minute mark. So let's get these rapid fire out. Bijan Robinson over 79.5 rushing yards. Deebo Samuel over at 5.5 receptions. Cam Scatterbo over 54.5 rush yards. Theo Johnson over 18.5 rushing yards. Chuba Hubbard over 18.5 receiving yards for Theo Johnson. Chuba Hubbard over 49.5 rush yards. Chuba Hubbard anytime touchdown. Drake May and Stephon Diggs. May over 212.5 passing yards, and then pairing that with Diggs over 34.5 receiving yards. Alvin Kamara over 51.5 rush yards and over 12.5 longest rush, and an Alvin Kamara anytime touchdown. Really hammering Kamara today. I think he's going to have a big game. Saints plus 15.5. Way too many points there. Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown. Oh, for some reason, my camera has gone out, but just keep listening, guys. I'm going to keep talking. Saints plus 15.5. Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown, minus 118 using underdog. A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown, plus 195 using DraftKings. Dallas Goedert, over 34.5 receiving yards. Special on underdog, plus 217. Check that out. Emeka Egbuka, over 57.5 receiving yards, minus 112 using FanDuel. Matthew Stafford, under 251.5 pass yards, minus 112 using FanDuel. Colts plus 3.5. The Jags 49ers game under 46.5. The Jaguars plus 3.5. And then Travis Etienne over 50.5 rush yards and a Travis Etienne anytime touchdown. Last thing I want to talk about anytime touchdown wise in this Packers Cowboys game, I think there is a fat amount of value on Tucker Kraft here, plus 230 anytime touchdown. He has caught, I believe, or is tied with the most receiving touchdowns by far in the Packers receiving room, and 27% of the target share is a lot. Looking at Dobbs versus Kraft, you see here you get about 40 plus points of value. Tucker Kraft here, you can find anytime touchdown. Best odds are at FanDuel. So it is now 11:59. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry that my camera cut out here at the last second, but that being said, we are going to close out the stream in fashion. Good luck to everybody with all your bets, your fantasy plays. It's going to be a great NFL Sunday. Let's go. It's time to have one hell of